Welcome to the Joyous Edge, where we talk to top executives and performers about their journey, what they do when they're at their edge and breaking point, and what brings them joy in the everyday hustle.
This is the Joyous Edge. It's time to shine.
Leigh-Leigh, thank you so much for joining us today on the Joyous Edge podcast. I saw you speak back at the BBG Member Showcase, and I just loved how bubbly you were and just full of love and full of joy. And I know your thing is being being filled with joy. And I would love for you to share with our audience today, what was the catalyst that sprung you on that journey, and just share a little bit about your background and your history.
Sure. Thank you, Joy. Thanks for having me. I'm so
Yes.
excited that you asked me to be on. So this is
Yes.
going to be fun. Well, I was a mom with kids leaving the nest.
Okay.
And I was very sad about that.
Aw.
Even though my husband and I had encouraged them to go to college and get jobs and stand on their own 2 feet and be independent women. We have 3 daughters. It hit me in a way that I didn't expect.
Really?
Yeah, it just took all the joy out of my heart.
Oh.
And I had 3 great big holes in my heart. So I was waiting in a season. I was waiting on God to tell me what would come next.
Right.
At the time, my husband and I were youth leaders. We did that for 13 years. And so I was in a calling. God had literally called me to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in that calling. And I'm also a singer. I was singing in a couple of bands and at church. And I'm a voice teacher, so I had that. I was a substitute school teacher, so I had a lot of things that I was doing in my off hours of then being mom.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I realized that this season of change wasn't going to feel so good.
Right.
And so I began to pray about it. And I will tell you, I was in a 3-year desert.
Really?
Yeah.
3 years. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
And no one would have known
Yeah.
because I put on a happy face. I sort of compartmentalized it.
Yeah.
And it was when I was alone that it was really plaguing.
And it would just come out.
Oh, yeah. I was miserable. And that's, I don't know, I guess that's not so good. I mean, I had a great life and lots of things to bring me joy, but that ache in my heart with our kiddos growing up and leaving was really hard for me. So from the time, we have an older daughter, Josie, and there are 5 years between she and her younger sisters. They are twins,
Okay.
Annie and Lily. So she left first. And then I thought, I've got quite a few years here. Well, then those years go pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So about the time that Annie and Lily were sophomores in high school, I was feeling this doom, like,
Right.
the end is coming fast.
Right.
So that was the start of the 3-year desert.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they were freshmen in college
Yeah.
in November of their fall semester
Right.
that God finally answered. And he said, you need to be a life coach and a speaker.
Wow.
And I argued with God quite a bit, and God won, and here I am. So
I love it. And had you ever even thought about being a life coach or a speaker?
No. And as I lined up the pieces and sort of looked backwards at my life, God had completely lined everything up. He had completely prepared me, doing those things in different capacities.
Right.
So as a youth leader, I was teaching in front of the kids. Of course, a substitute school teacher, you're up in front of people. As a voice teacher, I'm not only teaching, but I'm coaching.
Yes.
And it's very intimate to take voice lessons.
Yeah.
It's just one-on-one, and it's kind of naked, just you and your voice.
Yeah.
And then I also created 2 worship services at our church, and I would often preach. So being a singer, I've been up on stage. I was in plays and musicals. And so I really had been on stage,
Yeah.
and I had done sort of talking, preaching, speaking,
That's
and coaching in different capacities. So
Yeah.
once I finally figured, okay, well, that would lend itself to this and
Yeah.
this to that,
Yeah.
then God won.
That's
So-
awesome. Well, I know just listening to your story and definitely having heard your story on stage, it was the reason I thought you'd be so great on this podcast is your life transition and how you're able to work through that change in life. Because, a lot of executives, when they're going through, they hit a certain point, their kids grow up and they hit the empty nester syndrome, and maybe they've been so focused on work, they haven't been focused on family, and now the kids are gone. It's like, what do I do here? So, hearing your ability to pivot and come up with that, I think first of all, so many people go through that, if not everybody, you know, something. You know, I don't have kids, but I do remember, you know, reaching a point in my life where I was like, what do I do? You know, like when I do get to that point, you start thinking, I feel like when you hit your like 30s and 40s, you start thinking about like, what's that next phase in life? Like, what am I going to do? You know, when I'm not working, because you prioritize that for so long. So, you know, dealing with the empty nests, and you raised independent women, because I share what your daughters are. I know they're very established and doing really well. But I think the fact that you did that is like, you want them to live their life. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about, you know, what having a joy-filled life is?
Yes. Maybe we should start with what happens when you're not feeling that joy.
Yes, touche. Yes,
I think
let's
that,
do that.
sometimes we find ourselves in a place we're like, whoa, how did I get here?
Right.
Like we're going along the path, we're doing,
Right.
doing what we think we're supposed to be doing, living life, whatever that looks like. And then at one point we wake up and we're like, whoa, like where did those years go? How did I get here?
Yep.
In whatever situation it is.
Right.
So I think once you have that awareness of not having the life you thought you might have, or that life has changed, and perhaps that change came sort of unbeknownst to you, and then all of a sudden you're in it.
And you can't control it.
Correct. And you also can't go back. Like you said, you made a really good point there that
You can't.
you can't go back. So joy to me is living with purpose,
Okay.
helping others.
Yes, I totally agree.
And so when we find ourselves in these seasons, I think it takes, there's no one fast answer. I don't think.
No, I agree.
And my first answer to everything is prayer.
Yep. I understand.
So when you find yourself in that moment and you're thinking, how did this happen? Pray, get on your knees,
Yep.
get on your knees
I love that.
and listen for God's voice.
Yeah.
And it took me 3 years of waiting
Yeah.
before I heard what I thought was a real direction
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So what I would like to tell my younger self, or
Yes.
in those years,
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago, but
Yeah.
is just have patience, have faith,
Mm-hmm.
have patience. Know that God's timing is always perfect.
Yeah. That is true. And I think sometimes it's hard because like he may be talking to you and you might not be listening, you know, and it's like, I know that there have been definitely messages that I've received that I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah. Okay. I'll get to that. And then it's like, until it hits you over the head, you're like, okay, I get it. This is a path that I'm supposed to go, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things that it's like, it's so interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I always say God might just tap you on the shoulder, or whisper in
Right.
your ear first, Leigh-Leigh. Then
Yeah.
I don't hear it. So he taps
Yeah.
me on the shoulder. Then he makes it a little bit harder. Then he's smacking me upside the head, and then it's a 2x4. It's like,
Right.
come on, girl.
Right.
And then, that's when you're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
I know. And sometimes it's like, it takes you falling down, fainting, doing whatever, you know, going through whatever it is.
Yes.
Whatever your trauma is, to be able to make that conversion.
Yes.
So I like that you mentioned that. And I do think we need to acknowledge that everybody can be in those moments of not being filled with joy. So so after prayer, what's the next thing that you do or that you recommend?
After you pray, you have to be still and listen. And that's why I say there's no one fast answer, because for each person, it's going to look a little bit different. But I think that if we can all remember to slow down and find quiet time, because when we're distracted, when we're busy, there are so many things that call for our attention in any given day. And so if we're not intentionally quiet and in practices of listening,
Yeah.
it's not always just being quiet, but it could be reading devotions or scripture or listening to, I say being quiet, but you can also receive through listening to Christian podcasts or Christian music. But when you're focused and you go with the intention of,
Right.
I'm listening for God's direction, I'm listening for God's voice, and that all takes intentionality.
That's so true.
We
And
can't just rush through the day and
You're
think,
right.
oh, I didn't hear God's voice. Well, were you quiet enough to hear God's voice?
Right.
And I'm saying this to me.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. And I think for me, some of it was like, I look at COVID. When COVID hit, I was like full stream ahead, doing great, knocking out of the park at work, or my career. I had a vision and a plan. It's like, tick this box, tick that box, keep going, and I had a clear plan. COVID hit, and it was like we were forced to slow down and think. And I think for me, my family's always been important to me, but because I didn't have a spouse or kids, I was like, well, who am I going to spend those 80, whatever those late years in life with? And I also started thinking about like my family and my parents. And I'm like, I want to have time with them before they grow old, and I can't have that time with them. And so to me, it became getting that time together and prioritizing my faith, became much more important, and just being able to sit in that moment and really slow down, because like COVID forced a lot of us to slow down and deal with a lot of stuff. But, and so I think you're right. I think taking that time to slow down, be able to just breathe.
Yes.
And think, turn inward and say, what is the direction? What should I be doing?
Yes, for sure. I love that you said breathe. God gave us deep breathing.
Yeah, that's true.
It is a tool.
That is true.
And so when kids are little and they fall down and they're crying, the first thing you would say is, take a breath. Just, okay, take a deep breath. Well, that's very purposeful. And I love how you said to take a breath, because I think you're a doer like I am.
I'm a huge doer.
And I like that you said check boxes and checking it out, because I'm like that too.
Yes.
And I go headlong into activity.
Right.
And I like being active.
Right.
But when I find myself in a place where I'm hyperventilating because I have too much going on, calendar's too full, or I'm not hearing God's voice, I have this practice that it's part of it is grounding.
Okay.
So I start with 3. I put my feet on the floor.
Yes.
And my hands, both feet flat on the floor, my hands face up in my lap.
I love it.
And I take 3 great big, through the nose, inhale, and exhale through the mouth. And I close my eyes, and I do that 3 times.
I'll do 2.
And the third one, great big deep. And now, using my senses, I ground myself, identifying, and I start with my ears. So for people listening and not watching, I'm pointing to my ears. So what do I hear?
What do you hear?
And I try to name something that I hear.
Okay.
2 or 3 things.
So like we hear right now, if you hear some, there's a train. I hear some cars outside, traffic. Yep.
So then I say, just go right out over to your ears. I mean, your eyes, from your ears to your eyes, just right across the face. What do I see? 3 things. 3 things that I see. And just in your head, you just pause and, name 3 things.
Okay, so we got the books, we got you, and I see my clock.
Awesome. Then what do I smell?
I smell the candle.
Okay, yep. And try to identify. Smell is harder, I think, for 3 things.
Yeah, smell is very hard for 3 things.
Yeah.
I think the coffee that I had earlier probably, and then perfume.
Right. Or your shampoo or
shampoo.
hairspray or something.
Yeah.
And then what do I taste? That's also harder to discern.
That is.
But if you can, just even 2 or 1 or something.
Yeah, so like I taste the gum I had earlier,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And so then the last sense is touch, feel.
Touch, okay.
What do I feel?
So
Feel my feet in my shoes.
Yep, there you go.
Feel my fanny on the chair.
Yep, I feel my back against the pillow.
Yes.
So
you've just grounded yourself with
I love
3
that.
great big deep breaths. You have used all 5 senses.
Wow.
And then did that
feel
not
great.
slow you down, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
a
feel
pattern
really good.
interrupt when our brains are going too fast.
Yes.
So if you find yourself in a moment that doesn't have joy,
Yeah.
you're in a negative spiral down.
Oh, yeah.
So often, and we spiral so far down before
Yeah.
we even realize it. Awareness is so key.
Yes.
So to the woman who's all of a sudden finding herself in this place of, I don't have any joy. What's going on? First of all, let's just be still, be silent. Get on your knees, pray.
Yeah.
Listen, be still, take breaths, ground yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you feel that sense of calm coming over, then you can begin to say, okay, you might ask yourself, if I'm not feeling joy, what's going to bring me joy?
Right.
And gratitude comes in. I talk a lot about gratitude. I talk about savoring.
Yes.
Sometimes this is a gratitude practice too. If you find yourself where you're just you're stuck in traffic and
Right.
you've already spilled your coffee in the car and,
Yeah,
all
oh,
these
yeah.
things
You start
seem to
your
be
morning wrong,
Yeah, you
definitely.
get
Yes.
waylaid by a train and
Yep.
all these things are going wrong. I have this new method I have called the pause, praise, pivot method.
Okay.
So again, it's awareness.
Right.
How far down have you spiraled? How many
Yep.
negative energy things have you attracted in your day?
Right.
You have to be the one to have that pattern interrupt and stop it. So
Right.
pause. You realize, okay, this is what's happening. I'm a little frantic right now. Pause. Then the praise part is name 10 things you're thankful for.
10
As
things.
fast
Wow.
as you can.
Okay.
And usually by the time I get to 10,
Yeah.
I'm into 12 and 15 things I'm grateful
yeah.
for. And that pivots you.
If you're a senior leader who keeps saying yes because it feels easier than slowing down to prioritize, you're not alone. I work with leaders who are operating at a high level but paying for it with burnout, overwhelm, and self-abandonment. When you get clear on what actually matters, everything elevates. Your impact, your focus, your legacy, and your peace of mind. If you're ready for that kind of clarity, I'd love to talk. Book a free call with me at freejoycall.com. That is so great because I know when I've tried to do some, like I always start my day, I have a little prompt that pops up that's like, what are you grateful for? And so I'll try to do 2 or 3 things.
Yes.
But I like the idea of shooting for 10 because it's like I can quickly come up with 3, but then it's like sometimes you get to that 4 or 5 and you're like, okay, what is that 4th or 5th? And then then it just flows.
Cascade.
To your point. And it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm thankful for my intern. I'm thankful for having the connection that I have with you. I'm thankful for,
Yeah.
our recording group,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
I'm thankful for my time with my nieces and nephews. And you just keep going. And that is so good. I do agree. I really teach my clients and, and my mentees and everything to really pause and get into gratitude as well when you're starting to spiral. I mean,
Yes.
the first thing is interrupt that bad thought,
Yeah.
And I love that you talked about the grounding, just so you know, like one of the things that I know my mom does every day is she'll actually go out into the backyard, put her bare feet in the grass and just sit and like, to your point, just get grounded for like 10, she does it for 10 to 20 minutes, I think, but it's like, she's like, I need to go get grounded. And especially when she's getting all, because we all have ADHD, it's like when she's getting all worked up, she's like, I'm going to get grounded. And she comes in like a changed woman,
Love it.
It is so great. I'm like, because we live on a big lake and it's great. It's beautiful. And I'm like, we're so fortunate to be able to have that as an option.
Yes.
But I love that you mentioned the grounding because that's something that I know she does every day. And I'm like, oh, does it really work? And yeah, okay. I got to try it again.
I love that. Yeah, I got chills when you said it.
Oh,
I could
good.
like picture. I could feel my feet on the grass.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that even if you're in your house,
Yes.
visualize going down the soles of your feet, going through your shoes
To the
floor,
okay.
to the subfloor,
Oh wow.
through the basement, all the way through the concrete,
To the ground.
to the dirt.
To the dirt. Wow.
Yep, like just visualize all
Yeah.
that way down. If you can't get out or like
Right. Well,
we
they
live in
grounding
northern
mats.
Illinois where there's
Yeah.
lots of snow.
Oh yeah.
So if
You're
you
like,
can't
I'm
get
not
out,
gonna.
yeah,
Yeah.
But grounding pad, I like that. That's a great
they do.
idea.
They have
Yeah.
grounding pads and things like that online,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's all sorts of stuff grounding that's out there because we've tried it. I'm sure we've tried it all, but I do love the fact that you focus on grounding and getting centered on that, and then the praise and appreciation. So
And it's about your energy.
It
So
is.
grounding is about energy, and
That's
we are
true.
just big electrical circuits. That's
We are.
what we are.
yeah,
And so, like when
Yeah.
you find yourself in those negative downward spirals, that affects
Right.
your energy. So, any way that we can, whether it's
Right.
gratitude or grounding, to break that changes our energy.
yeah, that does. You're absolutely right. That is such a great point. I'm just taking it all in. I'm like,
love it.
wow, this is so enlightening. So, what's another thing that you'd like to, or one main thing that you'd like our audience to take away from today?
Yeah. So, to the person who is in a season of waiting and change, it's like chokes me up.
I know.
I promise you, things will change and they'll
Yes.
get better.
Yeah.
And you have to just stay the course.
Yes.
Try new things. If it doesn't work, try something else. Don't
Yeah.
get discouraged. Keep going. Keep moving. Grow.
I love that.
We are meant to grow. We are meant to change, and we are meant to embrace the beauty that's all around us. And some days it's just harder to do than others. But know that God has created you specially and uniquely. There are gifts that you have that no one else has.
Right.
There are purposes that you have that no one else has. And I want to say purposes because I don't think that we come to earth with one purpose in life.
I agree.
I believe that our purpose changes depending on our stage in life.
That's such a great point.
So as our girls left home, that was my purpose for all those years.
Yes.
And then the purpose shifted a little bit. I'm still their mom, but just in a different capacity. And so
That is
now
such
I
a
have
good point.
room in my life to use other gifts and use the gifts I have in other ways that I hadn't even thought of. So if someone's in a season of waiting and change, just hang on. Find joy in the everyday moments.
Right.
Sometimes it's harder than others, but you have to be the one to do it, which is the good and the bad news.
Right,
The good news is we can do it, but the bad news is we're the ones who have to do it.
Right. And I love that because I've definitely gone through those seasons of change in my life at different points in my career where I moved from corporate America to consulting, and now I'm moving out, on my own, having my own company. And one of the things that I love about that is that it is being able to pivot. And it's like, it's listening to that inner voice of God, and just like, are you really telling me to do this? Like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, and it's like, finally, when it's just screaming at you, you got to go and do it.
I love that.
Like, it's like, you just get so many, it's being able to take that pause and really thinking about what truly fills you up, to your point.
That's right.
And what fills your cup. Like, I read a book, I can't remember what the title of it was, but it was like, How Full Is Your Cup or something like that. And it's like, it's all about having just like that joy in your life. And I do believe joy is your purpose. So is your purpose aligned with what you're meant to do in the world today?
Right.
Versus 20 years from now? Because you've got, and I love that you can take all the lessons from, when you were a teacher, from when you were a senior. You get so many different trainings with all those to transfer to be able to do whatever it is that you want to. And, one thing that I teach a lot of my younger mentees is, I think about it like one of my favorite movies is Karate Kid, like the whole series. And like, I'm like, you gotta think about it like wax on, wax off. You learn these skills not for what you're going to be, not just because you need to learn to clean or do this or do that. It's like that, building that muscle memory to be able to get you to that next level in that next position. Like, I never would have thought, like, I was raised with an entrepreneur for a mom, and I just, I was like, I'm never going on my own. I'm doing corporate W-2 security. That's what I'm doing. And finally, when I gave in to that calling, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going all in, and we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen, And it's like, I've been doing exactly what I've been doing for years. It's just changing taking those skills and transferring it to something else, know? And so I do love that. And I think you can do that same pivot in corporate, especially when you're going from an individual contributor to a manager, to a leader, to an executive. You're able to take those skills and pivot it. But because you've been through that, you're also able to then coach up your team and grow them. Or maybe it's going out on your own,
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I like that you talked about just like sort of using those skills in a different way.
Right.
So as we're looking for things that will bring joy back into our heart,
right,
it's different. It's same skills applied in different ways.
Right.
And like for me with my kids, it's not that there's anything replacing the joy that they brought to me, but there's something that's filling me back up in a different way.
Right. Right. So, I like that because it's not replacing it. It's refilling it with it's making it overflow.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's
it's like going to get a new cup.
Overflowing.
It's like, I just want to refill my cup.
Yes.
That's it.
I love that.
Yes.
100%.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I got one last question for you.
Yes.
What brings you joy?
What brings me joy is helping other people and empowering, as a coach, as a life coach. And even when I speak, when I see people in the audience light up, I can tell that idea made sense to that person.
Right.
So to me, Well, first of all, it was being a mom, and you're helping the children you're raising, of course, and then all the other ways that God used me in my life and is still using me. So it's helping people. And it's like as a voice teacher, when someone gets a drill right and they're like, oh, that's what you wanted me to sing. Or that's how you wanted it, or they're pleased with the way a song came out. Helping people to achieve and to empower them is what brings me joy.
I love it. Well, it has brought me joy today having you on this episode and being here to share with our audience and our community. So thank you so much, Leigh-Leigh. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joy. It brings me joy to be here with you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe. All the information can be found in the show notes. And until next time, keep your joyous edge. See you next week.